My boyfriend's lie destroyed our relationship. He said he would be working late, so I went out for a ride with my lover on the motorcycle he gave me. But it was all a trap, and when I arrived, he was already there waiting for me. The motorcycle roared at the entrance, and I arrived shining, stuck to Queek's back. Sergio was sitting on the hood of his car, clapping slowly, as if I were a cheap show. I still had my helmet on when I saw the envelope of money, and I understood that something was rotten. And there, in front of my face, my lover let go of my waist as if I were a finished job. Before you judge me with your cardboard morals, let me explain how this nightmare began. I'm Bianca, and if anyone thinks this is about infidelity, you've already started wrong. This is about a lie, about a trap, about a man who plays God with other people's lives. Sergio, my boyfriend, was always one of those who control with smiles and expensive details. People saw him as a prince because he pays, because he solves, because he provides. But with me, that generosity came with invisible conditions that no one wanted to name. I'm not a woman who settles for routine, and that's not a flaw, it's a standard. If Sergio wanted me by his side, he had to understand that I need excitement, attention, presence. He'd say he loved my energy, that I brought him back to life, that I inspired him. And of course I inspired him, because a house without Bianca is a cold, dull museum. I made his world look better, and that's worth something too, even if it's hard for you to understand. The last few months he'd been weird, like he was calculating, testing the ground. Suddenly he'd talk about the future, about seriousness, about taking the next step with a solemn face. He'd drop comments about rings like someone casting bait to see if one bites. And I, obviously, got excited, because who wouldn't want to be officially chosen? But I also started to wonder why it felt more like an exam than love. In the midst of that tense atmosphere, Queek appeared. He didn't appear out of nowhere, he appeared because of Sergio. Queek was the motorcycle guy, the one with the free vibe, the one who arrives smelling of gasoline and confidence. Sergio gave me a motorcycle for myself as a romantic gesture, as a symbol of independence, but it was also his way of saying he could buy my smile whenever he wanted. I loved it because it's hard not to love something that makes you feel powerful and desired. Queek came onto my radar naturally, like people do when they really listen to you. It wasn't that I was looking for him, it was that he was there, around the motorcycle, around my life. He'd talk to me as if I were interesting, not as Sergio's girlfriend, not as an accessory. He'd say the exact things that touch you where you didn't know you were short of breath. And I thought, finally, someone who doesn't treat me like a prize, but like a universe. I know how it sounds, I'm already hearing you, but let's take a breath for a second. Sergio had been behaving for weeks as if I were a project he managed. He'd ask too many questions, watch me discreetly, look for flaws. I needed to feel free within my own relationship, not watched like a suspect. And if a man puts me in an emotional cage, it's logical for me to look for windows. Queek and I started talking more, and it wasn't all at once, it was like a gentle current. A photo here, a reply there, how was your day, that sounded genuine. He'd ask about my dreams, my fears, about that part of me that Sergio ignored. I felt a deep connection, the kind that makes you say, this can't be a coincidence. And at that moment, my mistake was to believe that life was giving me back something I deserved. The night of the disaster, Sergio texted me that he'd be working late. It wasn't a maybe, it was a statement, a clear, almost boring message. With that information, I made a decision based on what he himself told me. If he wasn't going to be there, I had the right to live my night without asking anyone for permission. That's what adults do. They trust each other's word and act accordingly. Queek texted me that he was free, that we should go for a ride, that the night air cures the soul. He spoke to me as if he knew exactly what phrase makes me feel understood. I accepted because honestly I was tired of feeling lonely next to my boyfriend. And if Sergio was going to stay at work, I wasn't going to stay crying in a corner. It wasn't betrayal, it was getting my oxygen back, even if you're scandalized. The motorcycle was a gift from Sergio, and that makes it even sicker, because if he gives me something, it's supposed to be mine, not a chain with a hidden camera. I put on my helmet, got comfortable, felt Queek's hands and thought, this is life. I wasn't thinking about destroying anything, I was thinking about what made me feel alive. And if Sergio didn't want me to look for life outside, then he should have built it with me. We arrived at the place where it was supposedly just a ride and a moment without drama. I was laughing, stuck to Queek's back, with that nice adrenaline in my chest. And suddenly I saw it, Sergio's car, parked like a judge, like a sentence. He was sitting on the hood, not worried, not sad, not human, clapping slowly, as if I were a joke he already knew from the beginning. My first reaction was the right one, absolute outrage, because he had lied to me. He had told me he would work late. He set this up. I screamed that he was a liar, that he played dirty, that who did he think he was, a sicko. And he didn't even blink, just looked at me with that calm of someone who believes they're right by contract. That kind of calm is the cruelest, because it leaves you looking crazy in front of everyone. Then I saw the envelope and my body went cold. Sergio took out an envelope with money, like someone paying for a service, like someone closing a deal. He handed it to Queek without even looking at me, as if I didn't exist. And Queek, without drama, without guilt, let go of my waist as if I were a backpack. That's when I understood that what I was feeling wasn't romance, it was a rehearsed scene. Queek took the envelope, counted the bills with a calm that still makes me nauseous. He looked at me the way you look at an object you no longer need to lie to use. He told Sergio with that colleague's confidence that it was very easy, that he was right. And in that second, my reality split. I wasn't the girlfriend, I was the experiment. Sergio wasn't leaving me, he was grading me. I felt like I was running out of air inside my helmet, as if the plastic had become a prison. I looked at Sergio hoping to see something, even a trace of humanity, a tear, a tremor, but what I saw was pride, satisfaction, as if he had won a stupid competition. And the worst was understanding the bottom line. He was planning to propose to me after testing me. I mean, he already saw me as a suspect before putting a ring on it. Comments on the main story. Anonymous user 1 says, "They didn't test you, Bianca. They exposed you. You got on the bike with another guy of your own free will." Calling Sergio a liar is the height of irony. You were the liar in practice, and now you think you're a victim because the plan worked perfectly and left you with no excuses. OP's reply. Sure, because you all love to simplify everything to feel superior. I reacted to a lie. He said he would work late and set up a trap instead of talking. If he had respected me as an adult, he would have talked to me. He wouldn't have hired people like in a reality show. What hurt me wasn't looking bad, it was discovering that my boyfriend enjoys humiliating me methodically. Anonymous user 1 says, Sergio saved himself from marrying you. Imagine proposing and the woman goes off with the first guy who says 2 nice phrases to her. The envelope of money was poetry. He treated you like what you were that night. A transaction. I'm sorry, but the test worked because you confirmed the worst. OP's reply. How convenient to talk about saving. When you're not the toy in the hands of a manipulator. Do you really think hiring an actor to seduce your partner is normal? That's not love, it's control. I'm not a file to be validated. I'm a person who deserved trust, not a hidden exam. If Sergio needed a theater to feel secure, the problem was his paranoia, not my humanity. Update 1. The shock wasn't elegant, it was physical, it was electric, it was a humiliation that burns you from the inside out. I got off the bike as best I could, with weak legs, and went straight for Queek. My body reacted before my pride, because my instinct was to make him pay for playing with me. I raised my hand. Yes. And if anyone judges me for it, they should check themselves, because I was destroyed. It wasn't jealousy, it was the rage of being used like a doll by 2 laughing men. Queek wasn't even scared, and that was the worst part, because the lack of fear makes you invisible. He laughed as if my reaction was part of the show, as if I were predictable. And then he took out his phone with a disgusting calmness, like someone showing a receipt. He showed me messages, screenshots, instructions, a complete script with what he should say to me. Every phrase that made me feel seen was written by Sergio as if I were a manual. That's when my stomach really turned, because it wasn't just deceit, it was dissection. Sergio had told Queek exactly what kind of words break me and fix me, that I love to be told about freedom, that I'm intense, that I'm unique, that I'm fire. He gave him the list of my tastes, my wounds, my insecurities, as if they were hunting tools. And Queek, obediently, dropped them on me one by one, measuring my reaction like a casting actor. I tried to deny the obvious, because no one wants to accept that their connection was engineered. I kept telling myself that there was still chemistry, that I still felt things, that you can't fake everything. But Queek said it with a cruelty, that with the right information, anyone can make anyone fall in love. And that comment hit me harder than the envelope of money, because it reduced me to a pattern, as if I were so simple that you can activate me with 3 phrases and that's it. I looked at Sergio hoping he'd at least be ashamed of his own monstrosity, but Sergio was calm with that "you deserve it" face, as if I had always been guilty. He didn't yell at me, he didn't insult me, he didn't even call me by my name with love. He just watched me fall apart like a scientist watching a mouse fail a maze. And what hurt the most was that he enjoyed feeling smart at the expense of my dignity. I told him that was psychopathic, that it was sick, that no normal person does that. I told him he had betrayed me first by setting it all up, that he had broken the trust before. Because yes, I made choices, but he built a stage to push those choices. This wasn't a test, it was controlled provocation, it was designed temptation, it was an emotional ambush. And if that doesn't give you the chills, then you're broken too. Queek put his phone away like someone finishing a show and saying goodbye to the audience. He looked at me with a mix of mockery and pity, and that was unbearable because I hate pity. He told me it wasn't personal, that it was work, that's how tests are, as if it were normal. And then I understood the most humiliating thing. I wasn't the girlfriend, I was the filter before the ring. Sergio wanted me pure, but at the same time, he put me in the mud himself. Comments on the update. One anonymous user once says, "I'm sorry, but this is luxury karma." You feel humiliated because you were manipulated, but you were ready to manipulate Sergio with a motorcycle ride. That they read you so easily only proves you're not as intense and intelligent as you think. And trying to hit Queek, pure class, Bianca, pure class. OP's reply. I love how you turn a planned emotional aggression into karma to sleep peacefully. I reacted as anyone reacts when they discover they were used with a script. And if he could read me so easily, it was because my own boyfriend gave him my keys, my tastes, my history. It wasn't intuition, it was betrayal with data, and that's 1,000 times dirtier than any ride. Anonymous user one says, Sergio isn't a psychopath, he's cautious. If he was going to propose to you, he needed to know if you were loyal or if you'd go with anyone. You failed in record time, and you still demand compassion. The humiliation hurts because it took off your mask, not because it's unfair. OP's reply. Cautious is talking, setting boundaries, building trust, not hiring an actor as if I were an exam. You all romanticize male distrust as if it were a virtue and then complain about broken relationships. I didn't have a mask, I had ignored needs and a boyfriend playing puppeteer in secret. If Sergio loved me, he chose me with his heart, not with a trap designed to make me fall. Update 2. Sergio didn't give me space to process anything because his goal was never to understand, it was to close. He told me it was done, that there was no more conversation, that the result was the result. I tried to approach him, I tried to talk with that mix of rage and panic that leaves you with no stable voice. But he had that calmness of a sentence, as if he had already rehearsed the end in his head. And there I saw that I was no longer his partner, I was a problem he wanted out of his house and his life. The next day, Sergio gave me a box with my things, my clothes, my perfumes, my chargers, my small objects stacked as if I were a visitor. It was one of the coldest scenes I've ever experienced, my life reduced to cardboard and tape. He told me to leave, that he didn't want drama, that he didn't want tears, that he didn't want excuses, and he said it as if he were the owner of the world and I were a guest who had overstayed her welcome. At that moment, real fear set in, the kind that no one confesses out of pride. Because losing Sergio wasn't just losing a boyfriend, it was losing stability, status, social protection. I'm not stupid. Sergio has money, contacts, presence, and I was used to that life. It's not about being a gold digger, it's modern survival, it's understanding how the world works in a couple, and I wasn't going to let him kick me out as if I hadn't invested years in him. So I did what I had to do. I gave him back a story that would make him uncomfortable. I told him I knew it was a test from the beginning, that I had noticed, that I smelled it. I told him I was just playing along with Queek's game to see how far he would go, to confirm it. As I said it, even I felt how pathetic it sounded, but I couldn't be left without an argument, because if I accepted his version, I'd be the easy fool. And I'm not the fool in any story. Sergio looked at me the way you look at someone who's improvising without talent. He didn't yell at me, he didn't call me a liar, he just let me talk until my words ran out. And then, with a cruel calmness, he told me it was a sad lie and he wasn't going to argue about it. He told me the only person who believed that was me, and that was the most worrying thing. That phrase went right through me because it made me feel alone even within my own defense. I tried to change my strategy. I appealed to the emotional, to what we were, to what we planned. I reminded him of his nights with me, his promises, his conversations about the future, his idea of the ring. I told him he was exaggerating, that this was a staged scene, that no one reacts perfectly. I told him that anyone can get confused when they're neglected and then provoked with precision, but he remained the same with that "you don't exist anymore" look, and that's what really destroys you. In the end, Sergio just pointed to the door with the box in my hands. There was no hug, no dignified closure, no "take care." There was no humanity. I walked out with a lump in my throat, hating him for his calculated coldness, and at the same time hating Queek for existing and hating the world for applauding that kind of test. Because what they did wasn't discover the truth, it was fabricate my ruin to feel superior. Comments on Update 2. Anonymous User 1 says, "You know what's the worst part of all this? That neither you nor Sergio are innocent. You both played the same dirty game. What did you expect? That they'd applaud you for knowing all along it was a test? If you had really known, you wouldn't have fallen so easily." OP's reply. "What did you expect me to do? Stay at home and wait for him to treat me like a princess while he controlled everything? I'm not asking for applause. I'm saying he humiliated me to feel secure about something he himself didn't know if existed. No, I'm not perfect, but at least I didn't ask anyone to test me." Anonymous User 2 says, "You tried to use a script to manipulate him, and when you got caught you said you knew everything. That's not a defense, it's a cheap justification. No one is blaming you for being unfaithful. We're pointing out that you're so dishonest with yourself." OP's reply. "Yeah, right, because what a man does to check your loyalty isn't manipulation. What I did was try to save what I had left. My dignity, my relationship, my future. It wasn't a script, it was a reaction to being trapped in a game I never chose. But of course, it's easier to blame me than to see the bottom of all this." Update 3. The next thing I did, driven by a mix of desperation and rage, was to try to destroy Sergio in the only way I still thought I could, by exposing him publicly. I couldn't stand him being so calm while he watched me destroy myself, while he watched my ego crumble piece by piece. I felt humiliated, yes, but I wasn't going to let people think he was right, that I was the guilty one, that I was the one who had failed. So I decided to do what I do best, use social media as my personal stage, my weapon of self-defense. I uploaded a video with the truth of what happened. I edited it to give my version, that he had manipulated me, that he was a psychopath controlling my life, that he had hired Queek just to test my fidelity. I painted him as the monster who, according to me, had created all this with his own fears and traumas. And I told myself that all this would make him understand what he had done. Who could be on his side after that? Who? I was sure the world would support me, because in the end everyone knows that truth is powerful. However, what I didn't count on was a very important detail. I didn't have all the control. Sergio, with his ability to handle situations in his favor, published the video he had been waiting for to come out, the video secretly recorded from the motorcycle helmet. In that video, I was talking to Queek as if I had known him forever, saying things I never thought would come out of my mouth. The phrase that hurt me the most was the one I tried so hard to hide. I wish Sergio would die so I could have everything. The audio left me cold. I didn't remember saying it, but there it was. My recorded voice, showing my worst side, my deepest desire for revenge. Sergio, with his calm face, simply published the video. He didn't need more. That was his final blow. At first, I tried to deny it was me. I said it had been manipulated, that it was a lie taken out of context, but deep down I knew the truth was there. The damage was already done, and that recording, that piece of myself, would become the testimony that would destroy me forever. It wasn't just a war against Sergio, it was a war against my own image, against the person I had become, a lie to try to justify the unjustifiable. The worst came when my family saw the video. My parents, who had always been my refuge, my base, my anchor in the storm, no longer saw me as the daughter they had always cared for, the one who sought her happiness at all costs. They looked at me with horror when they heard those words, when they saw the way I treated Sergio. My own parents, the ones who knew me better than anyone, closed their doors to me. They forbade me from entering the family home on Christmas. They told me I couldn't continue living with them. And it wasn't just punishment for what I had said about Sergio, but for the kind of person I had become. I was no longer their daughter, no longer their Bianca. I was the girl who wished for her boyfriend's death for money, for ego. And that's not forgiven. I was alone, truly alone. No one wanted to talk to me, no one wanted to listen to me. Everyone knew I had crossed a line I could never go back on. And in that emptiness, in that total humiliation, something inside me broke, because it wasn't just that they had left me, it was that they had left me aside for being exactly what I had feared being. An out-of-control, selfish, manipulative woman. Comments on Update 3. Anonymous User 1 says, "You have no excuses. What you say in the video isn't taken out of context. It's what you thought of him at that moment. You can't use manipulation to get out of this. If you thought that, there's no going back." OP's reply. Sure, people prefer to reduce everything to direct blame because that makes things easy. Yes, I said it, but if you were in my shoes, maybe you'd understand why those words came out. Sometimes pain and spite don't let you think clearly. I'm not defending what I said, but I'm not justifying it with his manipulated version. Anonymous User 2 says, "Now you're going to play the victim. Do you really expect anyone to support you after all this? You're alone because you earned it, not because of a mistake." OP's reply. The victim is the one who has no voice, and I'm not that person anymore. You don't understand that people don't change with a simple apology. They change when the system that supports them destroys you. Sergio left me no choice. He gave me a role and a test, and I tried to play with the wrong cards. But who wouldn't when love becomes a chess game? Update 4. Time passed and I tried to rebuild my life, but the universe, or rather the people who knew me, didn't let me. I tried to go out, to go to bars, to try to find some comfort in a place where no one knew who I was. But one night, in one of those bars, everything changed. I met a guy. I thought finally someone would see me as a woman, not as Sergio's experiment. He was nice, attractive, seemed interested. I thought maybe this time everything would be different, that this time I could be myself. But the night took a horrible turn when, upon mentioning Queek, the guy looked at me with a sad smile. "Don't you remember me?" he said. "I'm a friend of Queek's." He told me everything. The worst was how the word started to spread in the city. Suddenly, everyone knew who the easy girl from Sergio's test was. What Sergio had done with his hired actor, he turned into massive gossip. I was the local joke, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake that label. No one took me seriously. The men, the women, everyone looked away as if they knew something I didn't. And when I approached a guy, I saw in his eyes that doubt, that distance, that internal mockery. The worst was that I couldn't trust anyone. What if they were all actors, all part of the circus Sergio had set up? I'd end up alone in a corner with my head full of paranoia, wondering if every look, every word came from a script that was already written. And the city, which was once my home, now felt like a prison of laughter and pointing fingers. I could never rebuild myself. I could never recover what I once thought was my life. Now there was only a shadow left, thinking that maybe any man who approaches me is just another actor hired by Sergio. Comments on Update 4. Anonymous User 1 says, "You became a local gossip and now you want us to feel sorry for you. You're paying the price of your own manipulation. It's not karma, it's life giving back. There's no rebuilding because your image is already destroyed." OP's reply. What do you want me to do? Stay quiet and disappear? I don't need your pity, but I'm not going to hide either. This isn't karma, it's the result of a life built on lies that no one wanted to hear. If I destroyed myself, it was because I trusted the wrong people, but also because the world doesn't forgive even a crack of doubt. Anonymous user 1 says, "No one is going to approach you after all this, Bianca. Not men, not your family, because deep down we all know that what you've done has no excuses. You deserve to be alone, and that loneliness is the only punishment you've earned." OP's reply, "And I also know what you think, that my loneliness is fair, that the pain is necessary. But when you've been in the eye of the hurricane, you understand that the people who point at you don't see what you've been through, only what gives them moral satisfaction. Just because my mistakes are public doesn't mean my suffering is."